Nuclear reactors are once again starting to be built in America, but it's not the state behind it this time. Big tech is investing. Why? Money. A lot of money. In particular, AI money. You see, while consumer purchasing habits are showing that you, dear viewer, tend to have a lower emotional trust in products that use the term artificial intelligence, resulting in lower sales, because perhaps you've seen it in one of its many chatbot forms with OpenAI's ChatGPT, or maybe X's Gronk. Or you're just tired from seeing it creating great works of art with stable diffusion. The stock market, however, loves the term. It eats it up. So, this AI label has been slapped onto everything in every industry, for better or worse. Food service, Wendy's dynamic price boards, healthcare, it's being used to map the human genome. Art, a robot just sold a painting of Alan Turing for just over £830,000, or just over $1 million. The stuff is everywhere, and the stock market eats it up. They put so much weight on the term that Apple was caught flat-footed by AI, which is why they had to sign an agreement with OpenAI to bring ChatGPT to Siri. I mean, seriously, their new phones didn't even launch with all these promised AI features. And, as always, they don't like using industry terms, hence why we got Apple Intelligence instead. But the man who has undoubtedly benefited the most from the AI boon is Jensen Huang, a CEO of a previously middling tech company, whose biggest earnings used to come from selling gamers their next graphics card. You see, he's managed to transform his company by selling the cards that now run in data centers, making his company one of the most valuable in the world, because all that processing power that used to be used for storage and crypto is now being used for AI. Now, I know that you know that NVIDIA is the big dog in this space, even if you only have a cursory knowledge on the subject. I need you to understand just how big NVIDIA is. I mean, they used to play second fiddle to Intel, and yet despite the American government desperately giving that company grants in the hopes that they'll be able to create the same chips as they do in Taiwan, Jensen Huang's personal wealth, personal, not company mind you, personal, is worth more than Intel. The man is worth $122 billion according to the Bloomberg Index. I mean, this man has children dressing up as him for Halloween. He's out there signing chests like some sort of rock star. The guy makes computer chips. This company is so overvalued that despite beating the earnings estimate, the stock dropped by 6% because they didn't beat them hard enough. And while Jensen is standing on the side selling shovels, those looking for gold aren't stopping anytime soon, because big tech thinks that the first person to crack AGI, or artificial general intelligence, where the AI can improve upon itself, will make the company trillions. So why bother fighting over pennies? I mean, just take a look at the employee compensation. It is outstandingly high. The average pay package for a level 5 OpenAI software engineer is near the $1 million mark, and their spending spree isn't stopping there. You see, all big tech companies have realized the same thing. AI needs an enormous amount of power and water, and I mean enormous, with one estimate stating that 10% of all energy in the US will be going to these data centers by 2030. According to one Nature study, AI is projected to consume between 4.2 and 6.6 billion cubic meters of water by 2027, which, for reference, is almost half the UK's annual water consumption. On the extreme end of things, Sam Altman has asked the White House to approve a 5 gigawatt data center, which would only cost a cheeky 100 billion USD. Now, to give you an idea of just how much power that is, because I didn't understand originally, that is enough power for 50 million light bulbs, that is the same power output of 15 million solar panels, and is the equivalent output of 5 nuclear reactors. So quite frankly, the current grid cannot support this level of power required to feed AI. And so, rather than build millions of solar panels, big tech is turning to nuclear. See, nuclear energy has some very strong positives. It's incredibly energy dense. You can get more energy from one pellet than a literal ton of coal. Nuclear is extremely land efficient. You need about 3 million solar panels to create the same energy output as one nuclear reactor. It also has a high capacity factor, sitting around 92% figure, at over double coal's 40.2% and 20% more than the next best thing, geothermal. And while it might not be the best in certain regions for tectonically active areas, still pretty damn good. Now, you might be sat there scratching your head. If nuclear is really all that good, why isn't it everywhere? Well, I think there's three reasons: cost, waste, and branding. While the first two do pose significant issues, it's the third which is the key. Because if we were honest with ourselves, if there was public will in America for more nuclear plants, those two problems could be solved. So the major issue is branding. You see, nuclear just sounds scary to the uninformed. I mean, you have events like Chernobyl, Fukushima, and America's worst incident, 3 Mile Island. And that's not even thinking about the bombs. But despite all the bad press that 3 Mile got in America, no one was killed. No one was even injured. There have been no long-term effects from the accident. The incident did, however, increase the amount of public concern, leading to increased safety and regulatory scrutiny. It also fueled the American anti-nuclear movement, which is why, despite America having the most nuclear reactors in the world, they're all old. That thought has stuck around in the public zeitgeist, as almost 50 years after the incident, the Americans still aren't building or renovating new nuclear reactors. Until now, you see, because, in fact, Nadell, the CEO of Microsoft, he does not give a shit about your concerns. He needs power for OpenAI. He has net zero emissions targets to hit, and he ain't gonna build 800 wind turbines. So he has signed a deal to reopen 3 Mile Island, the exact same one we've just been talking about. Make no mistake, this isn't a one-off. All of big tech is turning to nuclear. Meta is trying to build a nuclear-powered data center outside an unnamed nuclear reactor. Not to be outdone, Google is partnering with Cryos Power to build 6 to 7 SMRs, small modular reactors, with the first to come online by 2030. Amazon has paid $650 million in March to put a nuclear-powered data center in Pennsylvania, and is partnering with several companies, Energy Northwest, X Energy, and Dominion Energy, to build some SMRs. And while I'm personally glad that America is going back to nuclear, the situation isn't going as smoothly as big tech would like. That Pennsylvania plant, well, Amazon wanted even more power from a neighboring nuclear power plant, but the Federal Energy Regulation Commission rejected it. And Meta, well, their nuclear-powered data center has been blocked by a rare species of bees. So either there'll be an accidental wildfire, or that data center ain't coming anytime soon. But Zuck isn't letting his dream of an AI powered by boomer misinformation die so easily, with Meta planning to build a $5 billion data center in Louisiana. And while this one won't be powered by nuclear, Entergy, an energy company, is asking to build 3 natural gas power plants to supply the facility to the tune of $3.2 billion. You see, you'll often hear the idea that the majority of Americans support the expansion of nuclear power. And that is true. It comes from a Pew Research Center poll, which found that 56% of Americans are in favor of the expansion of nuclear power. The problem rears its head when you talk about specifics, because nuclear power suffers from the not in my backyard phenomenon. People want nuclear power, but they don't want nuclear power near them. This is where I think SMRs will make a key difference. Because they're smaller, I think people will find it less egregious to have an SMR in their communities, because they lack the massive cooling towers that are so prominent in media depictions of nuclear energy. Now, I will add a small note, because this is all taking place in America. And as I'm sure you're aware, after taking a 4-year break, the Americans have made Donald the next president, and he is currently in the process of selecting his cabinet. And while we have seen him make some odd picks, like nominating RFK Jr. as head of the health department. Now, if you guys can't keep track of your Americans, this guy's policies are wild. He thinks vaccines cause autism and wants to take fluoride out the water. The same thing that the CDC said has led to 25% fewer cavities in children and adults. But he is perhaps more famous as the guy with a dead worm in his brain who put a dead bear carcass in Central Park and cut the head of a whale off. So maybe his pick for the Department of Energy would be anti-nuclear. You never know with the Americans. Well, allow me to introduce you to Mr. Chris Wright, a man who has drunk bleach on camera and doesn't believe in climate change. Now, while he is bullish on fossil fuels because he is the head of a fracking company, he is also in favor of the expansion of nuclear power, referring to it as the Holy Grail. So I doubt any of these projects will be affected by his appointment. However, it's important to note that in both cases, these are just nominees. and they need to be approved by Congress to be official. We have already seen pushback from Republicans to deny one of Donald's picks. Only time will tell if they deny him another. While I do hope this is the start of a renaissance of nuclear power in America, we will just have to wait and see. Now, you're up to date with why big tech is buying nuclear power stations. If you liked the video, why not hit that like and subscribe button? Either way, bye.